What is up, you guys? Naesam here, and Legion is right around the corner now, so I don't foresee any major changes happening. So today I decided, since I've been getting asked a lot about my thoughts on LE's viability and things like that, that I would kind of summarize everything that I have kind of put together and been thinking about with LE's viability and dungeons, raids, the pros, the cons, and all that stuff into one video. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and let's get started. So first thing we're going to talk about is the pros. So first off, the first thing you'll notice playing LE in Legion is that we have outstanding burst, probably one of the best out of all the classes that I've seen. It's that Primal Elementalist and Ascendance combo, it's very, very powerful burst. We also have above average single target overall, which is something LE has not seen in quite a while, and single target is normally more sought after than AoE. So we'll be less of this like bring on super AoE fights and not really that useful anywhere else. We're going to be a lot more useful overall. Next thing is we have decent AoE with the right RNG, so we could still come on AoE fights. If we get the right RNG, we can top the meters. That's kind of a pro, kind of a con at the same time, because RNG is not necessarily a good thing, but at the same time, it's good that we have potential to be very powerful. We also have fairly unique utility with Wind Gust Totem, Earth Crab Totem, Lightning Surge Totem, Wind Rush Totem, Earthquake. Like, we have all these unique things that most classes don't have. Like, I don't really think we have anything that no other classes have, but we have so many things we can choose from at any given time. Even like Ancestral Guidance is something that only one other class really has. I mean, it's not that powerful, but it's still something that could come in handy sometimes. We also have a very I guess I was just saying that we have a very diverse tool set for every different encounter. Like, we can always switch up to what the encounter needs. And one thing I kind of wanted to talk about with the whole utility thing is Earthquake is something that most people don't really think about as being utility. But the stun actually happens very frequently. Like, the damage isn't great, but the chance to knock down is pretty high. Like, it knocks down at least each target usually once or twice per Earthquake. So doing dungeons or raids where there's ads, you can constantly stun them, and it does not go on the DR, contrary to what a lot of people think. There is no DR on the stun, so it doesn't interrupt anyone else's CC either, so that's probably the most unique thing we have. It's something no one else really has. There are quite a few cons, but keep in mind that they're all pretty minor things. There's just a lot of them. The very first thing you'll notice is that we have like no passive healing. We have one artifact trait, which is something that you probably won't be taking for a very long time, that heals you once you hit a certain percent of health for something that really isn't very much health, healing at all. We have Healing Surge, which doesn't really, I mean, it's decent. Like, you can top someone off in probably 4 casts if you get the right crits. Does not look like it here though, maybe they nerfed it or something, but it also, like, you run out of mana pretty quickly, and you also have to stop and cast it. It's a pretty short cast, but you still have to stop. Like, that's 4 seconds just to get someone to heal up. And that's pretty much all LE Shaman has by default. Other than that, you have Ancient Healing Potion and Gift of the Naro. We also do very poorly under movement. We have very little abilities that we can use on the move. The biggest thing that we could use on the move would be, where is it? Ice Fury, but Primal Elementalist is so powerful, and it's also just as useful on the move, that I don't really see anyone taking Ice Fury very often anymore. So if we have to move much, we really don't do very much damage. We can also be very RNG dependent just because of the way the spec is designed, really. Our burst kind of depends on Lava Surge, or Lava Burst getting the Overload procs, and coming out of Ascendance, you also want to have a Power of the Maelstrom proc, which is a pretty low chance, 15% per Lava Burst cast, to use your Stormkeeper with. If you don't get that, you still want to use your Stormkeeper because you don't want to sit there and delay it, but you definitely do a lot less burst. And then obviously the AoE RNG is very, very RNG dependent, as you would assume by calling it RNG. Static Overload is probably the most RNG reward thing, but it's very low chance it will happen. It has a 10% chance to cause every target to Elemental Overload, which is like millions of damage. If you do it with Stormkeeper, it's like 5 million damage on one cast. But if it doesn't happen, you don't really do that much damage at the same time, so it's very, very RNG, whether you do super good DPS or like just good DPS. But as long as without RNG we can still do something, it's not a huge deal. The next thing is kind of, it's not really, I don't know if it's necessarily a con, but we have pretty weak artifact traits compared to most specs. We have some estimates here that I pulled up. Need to reopen it here. It's a spreadsheet. It basically has DPS estimates for all the different traits, and there are a few really good ones, but our golden traits are pretty underwhelming. And a lot of the traits hardly even give like 1k DPS increase. Some of them don't even give more than like 500. And a lot of specs are getting like huge DPS increase from the golden ones, and we actually... Our best golden one is currently Fury of the Stormlord, which is like about 7,000, 8,000 DPS increase, while Elementalist is like a 16,000 DPS increase. So the golden ones are very, very lackluster overall. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing, it just means that Blizzard's going to have to tune as we get further and further into the expansion once we cap out our artifact weapon and stuff. That they have to keep in mind that everyone else is going to be getting a lot more power-ups than we are, and hopefully they will tune appropriately with that in mind. And this is also another one that's... It's not necessarily something that most people need to worry about, but a big con for Shaman is that there's only one other DPS spec and it's melee. So if LE gets completely screwed on the tuning, we don't really have anything to fall back on. We just have to go to like a different class, or we have to go melee, which switching from range to melee is... It's a pretty hard thing to switch from, especially if you're doing progression and stuff. Like, you already have a set amount of melee. So if... That one's definitely a con, assuming we get undertuned, which I'm hoping will not happen. And the last thing that I have here is long ramp-up time for AoE, and that's mostly to do with Earthquake. If we get good RNG, the ramp-up time is, like, non-existent, but if we don't get that 10% proc on Stormkeeper, it takes us a very long time to really get rolling with AoE, and it can be a serious downside if it's burst AoE that needs to happen. Even if you have 100 Maelstrom saved up, you drop 2 Earthquakes, they still don't do that much damage. It takes a full 10 seconds for them to do anything. And hopefully, Blizzard will listen to the suggestions and make Earthquake do more damage at the start, or something along those lines. But so far, it's not looking like they're going to, so we may just have to deal with a long ramp time for AoE. So with the current tuning and all that, I think in raids we'll definitely be a very good class. We may not be like rank 1 world first kill worthy, but I mean, if you look at the world first kills, it's usually class stacking stuff. There's very few specs that actually get to see the world first kill. So I'm not really upset about that. Just the fact that we will probably not have to be sat for being a liability on almost any fight is going to be a serious plus and a serious change from how WoD was. So in raids, I think we'll definitely be fully viable, very, very good range DPS spec. And in dungeons, a lot of people seem to think we're doing really bad because of the AoE ramp-up time. But you can bring 2 other AoE classes and we still get that Earthquake stun going, and we have the very good single target burst. Like, if you have the right comp, LE is still going to be very, very powerful in dungeons. You just have to know what you're doing with the comp. You can't just bring 3 AoE people or 2 single target people in LE Shaman. Like, it's not going to work out. We need people that can carry our weight, and we can carry their weight in single target, or we can carry their weight in CC, stuff like that. So we actually have very powerful tools for dungeons, such as Lightning Surge Totem and Earthquake, obviously. And in some dungeons you can use the Earth Grab Totem, stuff like that. There are definitely a lot of things that LE can do that a lot of people seem to be looking over. So to summarize, I think LE's above average spec overall, and all types of mythic content and heroic content or whatever you're going to be doing, you will always be above average unless they do some serious nerfs. It also has potential to be a very, very like top tier #1 DPS around if tuning is right. It doesn't really have much potential to be super underpowered because of the way shocks and everything works now. See, our biggest problem in HFC wasn't necessarily our damage, that was just the icing on the cake that got us sat. Our biggest problem was the fact that shocks shared a cooldown. So when priority ads came out, we took a very long time to swap to them, and swapping to them was actually detrimental to our DPS because it also put a cooldown on our Earth Shock and our Frost Shock. And just all the shock sharing cooldowns was just, it was very, very hard to do anything with because they all have their own purpose. They shouldn't really be on the same cooldown. And that is what Blizzard thought as well, apparently, because they changed it. So with these new no cooldown shocks, we should never be in that place we were in Warlords of Draenor, or even like Mist of Pandaria. Even though we were pretty good back then, we had that same problem. So we should always be able to compete with other specs in just about every manner nowadays. And unless it's horribly nerfed, we have the tools to compete in any endgame content, dungeons, raids, anything. Anything you want to do other than maybe like PvP, but this video isn't really about PvP. I haven't done enough testing of that to really report on that right now. So that is kind of my summary of everything, is that I think we're going to be a very good spec. a lot of people are saying we're not, but I think those people are just kind of so used to Ellie being bad that they just kind of think it's bad if it's not top DPS or something. Because I'm definitely doing very well on beta. And I think once people get used to it, they'll be doing very well as well. So to finish this video off, I kind of wanted to show off my main point here, which was that we have very good burst. A lot of people seem to underestimate it. So let's go ahead and see what it is. This is using the Belt Legendary, 864 eye level. Obviously this is with hero and everything, but yeah, the burst is like 500k. It's basically top for any spec at this eye level, really. Except for maybe ones that I haven't seen yet. But I was definitely topping burst if I got the right RNG, and here we got a Power of the Maelstrom proc and everything. Even after the 15-second window is up, we're still doing 500, 600k. Just because Primal LE and the Power of the Maelstrom proc with SK, it's just... burst window lasts very long and does a whole lot of damage. Like, I just did 20 million damage in about 25 seconds. After this, you just slowly go down and down. Now hero's gone, it's just going to keep going down, obviously. Just like any other spec would. The Primal LE is going to continue doing an absolute crazy amount of damage, though. But, yeah, that's the power of LE Shaman Burst right now. The more gear you get, the better it is, just like LE always is. And I actually have completely trash trinkets, too. So imagine this with raiding trinkets. That could be absolutely insane burst, like possibly up to like 1 million. So hopefully this little analysis can answer some of the questions and maybe clarify some things for some people. But that is it for me today. I'm actually also currently in the works of a artifact trait path video. I'm trying to figure out the best path before I post a video on it. Obviously, I don't want to just post a video of some random path. I don't want to spread misinformation or anything. That should be out soon. And that is it for me for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. Like if you liked it. Comment if you want to see anything specific. We have very little time left before Legion, and I have lots of free time before Legion, so if you want to see something, definitely let me know. And thank you all for watching again, and I'll see you guys next time.